got this tweet from Liz Harrington at RealLizUSA. President Trump raised over $4 million in 24 hours after indictment in Alvin Bragg witch hunt. Over 25% of donations came from first-time donors to the Trump campaign. And that right there, I just want everyone to figuratively gloat over this, as I will now rub it in the face of that Politico reporter who said Donald Trump will not earn a single new voter from this indictment. Don't overthink it. The indictment is bad for Trump. And I'm just like, bro, he's got new voters right here. Literally right here. More money pouring in. This is what they asked for. I have to wonder if they're like, if they really do want Trump to be in office, because the media knows that when he's in office, they make money.
Well, I think there's a stupid narrative that I want to debunk real quick that was being pushed by a lot of folks who don't want to see Trump be the Republican nominee. They say the Democrats are indicting Trump and trying to throw him in jail because they want him to win. No, they are trying to throw him in jail because they're absolutely terrified that he is going to win. But, I'm glad you pointed out those statistics. A fourth of the new donors are first-time Trump donors. These, normal people are watching what's taking place. Normal people are watching Joe Biden throw grandmas who brought Trump flags to the Capitol in jail. They're watching Joe Biden throw a guy who made a meme of Hillary Clinton in jail, and now they're going to watch them throw the President Trump. Try to throw him behind bars. They're watching this and they think this is disgusting. How could this ever happen to our country? And a lot of folks who came over here as immigrants from countries like Cuba or a lot of these people, Guatemala, they fled corrupt regimes like this. They don't want this to come. If this happens in the United States of America, there's nowhere else for anybody to go.
El Salvador.
That guy's pretty big. Okay, maybe El Salvador. That guy's pretty big.
The problem with El Salvador is it's tiny and it doesn't have a military.
Well,
you don't want to go there.
But it does mean the savior.
I do got to say, it means the savior, and that's kind of funny. But up until Nayib Bukele, I think I'm pronouncing it wrong, up until he got in and started reforming it, especially with Bitcoin, I would have said no other country. Now I'm kind of like, El Salvador's doing pretty well. But for the most part, in terms of the wealth, the access, the opportunity, El Salvador is doing fantastic. So it's like, okay, I like it, but let's be real. The United States is supposed to be the bastion of freedom. And if it falters here, having to retreat to the next best thing is still a loss. It's the loss of the best.
Absolutely.
I've got this feeling of this.
But shout out El Salvador.
Oh, holler El Salvador. What's happening, Bukele? I support the presidency. I'm not into do I support Trump? Do I support Biden? Look, I will work with anyone that wants to bring liberty to the world, but I think all of us should be supporting the office, not the individuals.
I got a problem with that verbiage. Bring liberty to the world. That sounds a whole lot like George Bush, man.
No,
that's exporting. You can't export liberty.
Yeah, you can.
Sure,
you can build free software that lets people govern themselves and then give it to everyone.
Yeah, but what if they don't want it?
Then they don't use it.
But come on, also realize, if we blow up all their kids, then their kids will be free from being alive.
Yeah.
So George W. Bush might have been right.
What I literally mean, I'll explain what I literally mean, so it doesn't sound so generic. But I mean that we could build software that we utilize in the United States so that people can govern themselves locally.
Liberty is just like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You cannot make people want to be free. If people want a theocratic government, and you give them liberty, they're going to give themselves a theocratic government.
But if people have technology that is muting their ability to see the real world, and then you give them...
What do you mean see the real world?
Like TikTok, the algorithm is making them see what the CCP wants them to see. So if we can give them technology where they can see reality a little more clearly, maybe they will choose liberty.
I don't know if that's true. I think when you give people the ability to see the world, you end up with... I'll just put it this way. I think there was I believe in free speech. I believe in transparency. But I do think it could go either way. You give people absolute freedom, and then they might just become gluttonous. There needs to be moral foundations we agree upon where we have limits. This is why we have borders. I think one of the problems we had as a country is too much of the country became live and let live. And there needs to be two forces of pushing and pulling, where one group challenges... One group is holding everything back, saying, no, we shouldn't change it. The other group says, I hereby challenge you. We go to court. We determine, okay, this was good, that was bad. And that's how we progress properly. But what happened is the conservative chain was broken. and the left just zoomed full speed off into I'm going to do whatever I want with no restrictions, and now you end up with child sex changes.
We need a strong republic. That's the restriction force is the Congress and the Senate, the House. And honestly, the executive branch has an opportunity to be a stopgap with the veto power. I don't like seeing things rushed through. So I think actually that we are a technocracy, whether we want to admit it or not, that we've become a technocratic republic. And if we don't start creating a technocratic republic like we want to see it, it's going to get created for us in a way that we don't like.
Alex, I wanted to follow up with you with something we touched on, that you kind of touched on with this indictment, and it was kind of the political ramifications for it and what the Democrats, like a cynical Democratic operative, might be trying to pull together here with this indictment, that it would make it more popular among the base. But what would you say to a cynical Democrat operative who might say that Trump might be more palatable now in a primary because of this, but in a general, he would be less palatable to suburban white women than maybe a Ron DeSantis would against the Joe Biden?
Well, new polling just came out today, done by the People's Pundit Barris. I think he's a really smart guy, that had Trump winning with women 52-19 against Ron DeSantis. I took my mom to meet Trump in August at a rally in Wisconsin. And the first thing my mom says to Trump is, Mr. President, I had a crush on you in the 80s. Like, there's a lot of women my mom's age that remember Donald Trump from the 80s, and they loved the guy when everybody loved the guy, when everybody was allowed to love the guy. And President Trump does very well with the ladies, the pageants. He used to own the pageants. And what happened to the pageants?
What about with independents, though? So the polls I've been seeing show that Ron DeSantis does better.
Well, there's some polls that he does better. There's some polls that he doesn't. A lot of the polls that the DeSantis team likes to tout are paid-for polls. A guy named Chris Wilson with WPA Intel, he's notorious for running
do you think
polls.
Donald Trump would be more palatable in a general election to moderates than Ron DeSantis?
I do. I think that how many folks in here voted for Trump in 2020?
Trump.
I did not vote.
I voted for Trump.
You voted for Trump? You didn't vote for Trump?
I didn't vote either.
No. How do you view the indictment of him and the fact that they're trying to throw him in jail?
Well, I don't like the idea. I don't like the precedent of taking down past presidents, because then the next president's going to take down past presidents, then the one after that's going to take down the one before. And it's like
Trump just has so much baggage, though, relative to DeSantis. Is the argument widely, though?
Wait, sorry to interrupt, but that's good. I appreciate that point. And then I want to follow up. Would you rather have Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump?
Oh, this is why we have 2 years to campaign. I want to talk to both of them and have deep conversations about technology and their visions for the future before I make that decision.
So would you be able to say, like, right now, based on what you know, is there one direction you lean towards?
I know a lot of Trump's friends. Like, I know a lot of people that work with him and for him. But I don't like when they're like, call him the boss, because the boss is the American people. And we need to serve the office, all of us.
They do. Well, we've also had a lot of DeSantis friends on. I mean, I don't know. How do you lean, or are you neutral on the two of them?
I'm very neutral.
I mean, does the indictment turn you off from Trump?
No.
I think that's the sentiment that's across the country. Like
real quick, I just think everybody who knows the show and knows Ian, that his input on this is valuable. Right. Ian's got like a weird political stance that's not hyper like. It's not the same as all of us who are clearly on a track and have views. Like, Phil's very libertarian. Yeah. I'm pretty centrist, moderate. You're very conservative. Ian's the wild card who often defends Democrats in ways we don't agree with. So I think your input's, it's very valuable. To be right now, like, you don't know between the two, I think that says a lot.
But also the fact that you're saying that this indictment of him, like, doesn't make you reject him, and like you're not even thinking about that. I think most people are exhausted by the bullshit that the Democrats have put the country through for 7 years, witch hunt after witch hunt after witch hunt into President Trump. From the moment he came down the escalator, the Mueller hoax, the Ukraine hoax, the January 6th, the list goes on, and people are just exhausted, and they're throwing him in jail over a personal payment.
I guess, how would you respond to people who say that he has a lot more baggage than DeSantis does, and that would turn off moderates? No, wait, let me go over it. It would be like January 6th. It would, also not pardoning January 6th prisoners.
I'll just look at the camera when I say this. You just don't know Ron DeSantis' baggage yet, and believe me, there's a lot of material there.
And I kind of feel like he's more likely to compromise, and I feel like Trump is more likely to enact revenge. I mean, and I don't mean that. I don't mean that in a biblical sense. I mean it in more like I'm not listening to you. I'm done with you. You wasted my time. You're fired. Whereas DeSantis is going to be like, let's try and work together to make it better.
It seems like we're like tipping over the edge of the liberal economic order into the new world order. And we have an opportunity to unify and create the new world order in like an American image where we have like localized government, property rights, free speech, gun control, gun rights and things like that. And if we fight and argue as Americans, then it'll be the World Economic Forum that builds it for us. And then we'll be all like and then we'll be arguing with them and we'll be all trained to argue. So I really want someone that can unify and not unify out of fear, unify out of love and like a vision for reality, like a growth pattern.
Well, in a weird way, I think on Tuesday, our country is going to be more unified than ever before, even though we're going to seem so incredibly divided. But when there's the photographs of the former president of the United States and the leading opponent to the current president, when they're walking him into a jail to try to, book him, that's going to bring people together.
People don't understand, like, he's going into a holding cell.
Yeah.
Like, when he goes in, like, typically when you're arrested, you get placed in holding. It's not like a jail where they lock you in to punish you. It's like, we're temporarily placing you here as we process your paperwork. How are they going to do that?
It's terrible, but they're going to do it.
But a Secret Service goes in there with him?
Oh, absolutely. And they're going to protect the guy.
This is great. And that's going to be on Tuesday?
But yeah, absolutely.
Holy crap.
And then, think about this. The ads that the suburban women are going to see of President Trump being locked in a jail cell while violent criminals are ravaging through cities, burning down cities, beating up cops, punching women. And Alvin Bragg is letting, he's trumping down felonies to 60% of them. He's bumping them down to misdemeanors.
But Alex, isn't this
released
ironic?
8,000 people.
Yeah, he did the First Step Act. So isn't it completely ironic?
No. In New York, they released 8,000 felons.
And also, but Donald Trump had the First Step Act, which Ron
DeSantis voted for.
But that doesn't. It would still make it hypocritical. For you to
nonviolent offenders.
I disagree.
It's Trump-led. It wasn't.
Trump's criminal justice reform wasn't like, if you're a violent murderer, you go free.
Some violent people were let out,
wrong.
and then people who pled down. Come on, and he pled down a lot of felonies as well. I mean, I could pull up the First Step Act. But
so it was one. It's not retroactive. And then two, it was mainly targeted towards non-violent drug offenders. Alice Marie Johnson, for example, was a wonderful woman who I've gotten to know, who was sentenced to almost to life in prison for having just a little bit of drugs on her in the back of her car.
But even then, if the point were this, Trump wanted criminal justice reform and Bragg wanted criminal justice reform. And then Bragg says, I am reforming criminal justice. And then Trump says, I'm reforming criminal justice. And then Bragg says, now I'm going to indict Donald Trump on BS charges that are past the statute of limitations. You're like, one of these people is lying.
Yeah, well, reforming it doesn't always mean making it better. You can reform it into something very horrible.
I mean, how many of you support the idea that people who get caught with a bag of weed shouldn't go to jail for 10 years?
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I don't think that's what the First Step Act was doing, and I think that would be grossly mischaracterizing.
That's what the entire purpose of it was to be about. For nonviolent drug offenders who are treated unfairly by a corrupt justice system, who led by Joe Biden and the crime bill of the 1990s. I'm not sitting here saying we need to let everybody out of jail, but I think there's certain cases where you look at it and you're like, man, this person is treated unfairly.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.